Hello, my name is Muthoni. Welcome to another episode of Just Doing Life, the podcast, a space where we explore all the parts of life that we do not like to say out loud. After all, we are all just winging it. It's Monday. Welcome to another episode of JDL, or Just Doing Life a Little, because we do life a little differently every single week. Here is week 3. I think there's a week we missed or something. I don't know. But point is, this is week 3 and a lot has happened in the past week. So I'm going to catch you up on all of that. And then we are going to get into the topic of discussion for this week. So yeah, let's start with a little life update. Way, your girl got sick. I didn't even post an options episode on Friday, despite the fact that we had already shot it. It hadn't been finished. The edit hadn't ended, but I was unwell. It was such a weird. It's weird because in the last 2 months, 3 months, this is the second time I've been sick. I've not been sick in a very long time. And any other time I've been sick, it's been just the basic kawaida homa. But then I had gotten homa back in August. That was really bad. It really took me out. And let me tell you, it was a deadly one. It knocked me out for a full week. Then this past week, what now I know to be the flu caught up with me in a very weird manner, because at first it just started as a tummy discomfort in the middle of the night, and then I wasn't feeling that great. Then I was like, it will go away. I thought, okay, maybe it's something I've eaten, which I know was a lie because I don't really eat, and I also knew I had not really eaten. The only thing I'd eaten at that point was basically a mandazi and a sausage. So I knew for sure it wasn't really something I had eaten. But then at the same time, when your tummy feels uncomfortable and there's something happening with your tummy, the first thought is always, must be something you ate. So I was like, okay, maybe it was a delayed reaction or something. And I was like, it will just go away. When I tell you, it kept persisting. It was so persistent. It became so bad that I was in so much pain that I couldn't sit up straight. And then I was like, okay, I'll just go home. Who said, labda ni malaria. I was like, tema yo mate. So I'm on meds now. I did end up seeing a doctor. I'm on meds and I am feeling a bit better now. Still not at 100%, but definitely doing better. So that was this past week. Before that, I had there's some things the week before, because we did skip last week, I believe. It's big. Well, attended a private listening party for our new album that's called Awesome Rain the Stance. It's a collab album between Isam Gavi and Dr. Rain, and it was a really, really cool, nice evening party. The vibes were on. It rained. Unfortunately, it rained, but that did not stop the party. Reggae continued. And if you want to listen to this, it's a new album that just dropped. I will link it down below. Go listen to it. I have not listened to the album in its entirety, but I intend to do that. For me, I usually listen to songs a couple of times before I go oh, this is one of my favorite songs, or this is the song that I love the most. But then at first, when I start listening, I can always tell you which songs I'm going to groove to. Anyway, that was really good. The week before that, now that I'm catching you up on everything, it is a little life update. I had gone for folk fusion. Let me tell you, these people took us far. Okay. I was with a friend who was from out of town. So we're like, you know what, let's go have a good time. The intent was to go shake Nyash. Nyash was shuketh. Okay, to the max, to the point that when I woke up, because it was on Saturday, when I woke up on Sunday, I was in pain in random places. And I remember asking my friend, I was like, I don't understand why I'm feeling pain in my waistline. And she was like, oh, I know, I'll tell you what happened. So it was a really good time, but they took us far. Hey, Rosh, please, to your distance for the next one, can we shorten it a little bit because that was very, very far. It was basically like Paradise Gardens, which is technically where Paradise Lost is. It's like the gardens that are attached to Paradise Lost. So yeah, it was I thought, well, but yani, it was so far. How far was it? It was so far that when you were getting in, I remember at one point the Uber driver who was taking us there had to stop. And then a driver was coming who was leaving, literally told him, oh, no, no, it's okay. If you're going to Paradise Gardens, you're on the right track. Just keep going. And then you'll get up and then you'll see someone directing people. It's like, cool. So we go up. And then there's this point where they had put like signage to show you where you're going. So there's a first stop where it shows you like, yeah, this is where you're going, an arrow. And then you get to the second stop, then there's another sign. And then now it gets to a point where they even had people in the middle of the coffee plantation telling you, you're not lost, keep going. Like they actually had placards of like, yeah, just come. It's this direction. So it was quite interesting. But a time was had, watched Sarabi perform together, the original Sarabi as a band for the first time, I think in maybe 10 years for me. It was it was absolutely beautiful. A great time was had. And that was the intent of, well, attending that entire event. So there was that. It's been raining. It's been raining on and off-ish. It's funny because it's like it's so sunny and then it rains at points. So it's just like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So it's been a little annoying for me. Let me tell you, it's been annoying. It's mostly been annoying because where I stay, the road is being made. So it rains kidogo, like just a drippity drop of rain, and the road is like, ugh. And it just becomes mad, and vehicles are swerving, and Buddha guys are like, way, hey, barabara venye inakaa. And I remember like there's even one morning I was leaving. It was actually mid-morning-ish. And when I got outside, my Buddha guy wasn't available. So I had to take another Buddha. And he was like, hey, we'll have to pitia another NGA. And I was like, that's okay. But the interesting thing was like bumping into people walking back where they're like, hey, we've gone to change our shoes to wear gumboots because there's no way we can just walk on that road with just shoes. So I hope that they finish that road soon, because as it is, it's not giving at all. It's insane. And I remember there's someone who'd mentioned that maybe the option would be, no, someone said when it started, someone said, just have to put up with this for about 2 months and then we'll be fine. And for me, I was like, no, they need to be done before it starts raining, because when it starts raining, already the road in itself wasn't great when it was raining, but when it starts raining, it's going to become worse. And now we're seeing it. So I hope it will be done soon. Okay. I really, really do. I really, really do. I really, really do. Okay. So that's my little life update. Yay. Yeah, that's what's been happening. Song of the week. The song of the week this week. There's another song I'd prepped for you, but it's by the same artist. But now I'm giving you a completely different song. The song of the week this week is called Fully by Kinoti. If you have not listened to this song, you need to listen to this song. Fully is, okay, I already told you, I don't think I have to say it again. I'm a lover girl. So it's a love song, but it's a story of someone who's been a narcissist and they've had people before, and now they're talking about like they are on this healing journey and they want to heal themselves so that they can love someone fully. And it's because there's this person that they definitely want to love fully. And so in the song, they talk about how it's like, I know I've been selfish before. I took you for granted and stuff like that. And I was a narcissist. I ignored it. But I want to love you fully. So it's like, that's basically the basis of the song. And Kinoti is he's a really, really good songwriter and sings amazingly. The song is really beautiful. And there's one point in the song where there's this female voice, and I swear to you, like there's a part she sings and she sounds like Adele. Like the Adele for Rumor Has It, that Adele. Oh, or people know her for other songs, Photograph, whatever. That Adele, the white Adele. But there's a part that female voice honestly just sounds like Adele. And I'm like, oh, and I'd be curious to know who that is. I should probably go check the song credits and I'll probably figure out who the female artist is. But I would want you to go listen to that song. It's really, really beautiful. It's called Fully by Kinoti. Who see you. I think that's a word. Someone who sees you. So that's Mwende. Mwende is I don't know, do we call it a digital entrepreneur? I wanted to say media, a digital entrepreneur, and she has her own media company. I want to call it. It's a company. It's a media outfit called Zeda Media that focuses on women. So she's Mwende loves women. So everything she does to help women. She works to put women in the forefront, tell their stories. So she has Zeda Magazine, there's Zeda events, and we even partnered a while ago and did like a Zeda at a Zeda experience. So she has like Zeda experiences, and we partnered in one. So check out Zeda Media, Mwende NGAO. Just search Mwende NGAO, you'll also see her. That's where you'll find her work. Some of the things that Mwende does other than like highlighting women and putting them in the forefront is she's a feminist. She speaks up for women's issues. Mwende knows how to articulate so many things. Have you ever met someone um, who says things and you're like, oh my God, I've been thinking that I just didn't know how to say it and you just gave me the words to say it. So stuff like that. So if you love women, and you love women empowerment and you love to support female entrepreneurs or women entrepreneurs or women who are also helping other women entrepreneurs, please go support Mwende. Her website is mwendengao.com. To start ranting because we're getting into the threads, and this past week has been chaotic. And I feel like I'm glad that the topic of discussion today is sort of in line with the conversations that have been happening this past week. I don't even I don't know where to start. I have so many things. So we'll start with let's start with Shift. So Shift rolled out, right? And apparently, my information was moved, like most people, without my consent. And they had said that no one's information is supposed to be moved from one whatever to another without that person's consent. Like they're not allowed to actually do that, but wow, ni kina nani? Who do you think they are? So they've basically moved people from NHIF. Anyone who'd signed up for NHIF was moved to Shift. And I don't think there are people who I don't know if anyone consented. Personally, I know my information was moved. And how did I find out? I found out because Sha texted me and told me that they now shifted my information. And I'm like, who's Sha and where did they get my number? someone, I know a friend who'd gone for the event, and at like, I think it was midnight or around 1 a.m. They were like, "Oh, it's almost midnight." I think it was midnight. It was like, "It's almost midnight," and still not a single artist has gotten up on stage. And then I hear like, and on Saturday there'd been like a stampede because it was like, I think a 2 day event. I won't lie to you, I didn't even know this event was happening. I think for me, one thing I've noticed about myself and the kind of events that I like to attend, I like small boutique type, very niche down events. I am not a big fan of the big masses type events. That for me, too many people. Let's just start there. So I think that's why sometimes I never find out about these big events. But if you want to know about where like the small intimate setups are happening, I'm your girl. So I didn't even know who was performing. Apparently, Lauren Hill was in the country and she performed for people. Yeah, so there was that. So a lot of different things were happening clearly, but apparently it was a mess. And then I saw people complaining online, talking about, oh, kwani hatujipendi? Why do we go for these events and all this stuff? And I'm like, I get it, because even like remember there was that debacle with the Boys to Men concert. It was Boys to Men, yeah. There's been like a bunch of different, like this big artist type whatever's, and then there's always like a mess in the background or something like that. So anyway, there was that. I did not know. I didn't participate, so I cannot relate. There's a bill in Parliament to extend the presidential term. Do I think it's a sideshow? Yes. Should we pay attention to it? Also, yes. Two things can be true at the same time. So there's this guy who's been proposing this thing for a very long time, and it's like it comes and goes every so often, where they're proposing to extend the terms from 5 years to 7 years for MPs, governors, and like all the elected officials. And I was like, why? What is it that you cannot do in 5 years that you think you'll be able to do in 7? What will the 2 extra years do for you? Nothing. Oh, I know what. You can't steal as much money in 5 years as you can in 7. Well, you can, but they want to have like more time to steal money. So now I see it. Sorry, my bad. I was wondering, what is the motivating factor here? Sorry, I had forgotten that part. But I think that's the whole idea. But also at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that's been happening that I think is being used to shift our focus. And one thing that I've noticed this government is really good at is they're very good at throwing things at us. They've been throwing one thing after the other. So whenever guys are like, we're here, we're working on this, and then they throw in something else, they throw something into the works again. And it's like, here's another thing for you to discuss. And then I feel like what that does is like you have too many things we're focusing on that certain things end up, they want to see if it's possible for certain things to just slip under all this, and then just they get to pass them through. So we have to be very careful about what's coming our way and the situations around that and how we're having those conversations, so that, I think, you see, the thing is, divide and conquer. This is what I mean. I think what we need to do is, even in terms of these things, like we don't all have to focus on one thing. Get different groups to focus on different things. They throw the presidential extension term thingy on this side. We're like, cool. We have a group of people that's going to deal with that. So we have like some guys who put themselves together. Say we have a group that's now dealing with this, and we're going to read these things, and we're going to write the memorandums, and we're going to give everyone a template, and then now we all participate. So while they're focusing on that, on this other side, we have a group that's focusing on the agriculture bill, and then on that other side, we have someone who's focusing on the creative economy bill, and then on this side, we have someone. So we all are doing these things in our corners, but at the end of the day, we all come back together and then we push for all of them. Because now this group will tell us what's happening in this bill. This other group will tell us what is happening on the other one. And then when they give us the templates, Mimi, as a person, I'm sending emails for all of them. I'm not just sending the one for the creative economy or the one for the presidential term. I'm sending 5 emails because I have all the details I need from all these 5 different groups, and I know the problems that we're having with each of these bills. So I think, I don't know, take me up on that offer. Tell me if that makes sense, because I think they think that if they throw so much stuff at us, then it's going to be easier for them to get away with things. But even us, if we shift our strategies and we're like, you want to move mad? We can move madder. So we move madder. That's my suggestion. Now to today's topic, which is going to start with a conversation that started online. So we're going to segue into that. So we'll start with into the threads, and then from the threads, we get into the conversation that was happening online because they're sort of similar. There was a story about a guy called Bruce. Bruce is from Mombasa. He's a blogger from Mombasa, and he was arrested, and I use that term very loosely, for saying something that apparently the governor did not like. And then, so there was like that case. But then now, after he was arrested, the guys who quote unquote arrested him sexually assaulted him. And then they recorded that and told him that if he told anyone about his assault, they were going to release the footage of him being assaulted. Okay. So when he came back, when he was released, he spoke about it. And I don't know if it's okay. I think given the conversations people were having online, the video was released. And unfortunately, people went and watched it because I'm like, I don't understand why. Anyway, we'll talk about that later as we are talking about rape culture in general. And I don't understand how that's something that's okay. That people can arrest you and assault you sexually as a means to shut you up, quote unquote. Actually, that's not unquote, because that's the idea. They want to shut you up. They want to instill fear. And then at the same time, they are recording and then saying they will use that to shame you. I'm like, you are causing someone harm. And then the shame is supposed to fall on them because they were caused harm. But given the way the conversations were happening online, and then Kenyans made sure not to lose sight of him. And they followed him to the stations wherever he was being taken, all the way to court. And then after he was released, there was a video where he was sitting down with like a bunch of people. One thing I'll tell you, for me, whenever I see a room full of men and I don't see a single woman, I already know that there's a problem. There's a problem in itself in that space where you don't see representation of any kind, because the bottom of the barrel representation, like the bare minimum of representation, is always having a woman in the room. When you have a woman in the room, even if it's one, they will say, look, representation. That's usually the barest of minimums that exists when it comes to representation. So in this instance, first, that was the first thing I had not even before even the video played, because the video ended up on my timeline because people were having a conversation about what was happening in the video. I will not lie to you. I did not listen to the entire video. It just got up and I was like, yeah, never mind. And I exited, I logged off. But that's the first thing I clocked. It's one of the things that I usually pay attention to. Even when people invite me for, like, say, meetings, or if people invite me for panels or whatever, for discussions, I always want to know, are there other women in the room, or am I there as a token? It's very important to know these things, to be aware, because tokenism is also a thing. We'll have a conversation about that another day. So basically, in that room, a conversation ensues about someone who's charged with rape. And apparently, Nani, Morara's suggestion to this person is that the families should just talk and have a conversation about it. And the thing is, I remember very well, I don't even know, where was this? We were having a conversation we're talking to a lawyer. That's how. We were there's a docu we were doing, and a conversation about this came up. And there are two things. There are certain things that you cannot have out of court settlements on, and rape is one of them. You can never have an out of court settlement about rape. Okay, so you can't say, oh, the family spoke and they've agreed that he will pay this much or he will do this, he will do that. No, that's not how that works. But then here he sits with these people and he's like, yeah, the families should just talk and figure it out. So that got called out, right? And then after he was called out on that, this was the same time that the conversation about Bruce was happening. And we'll also get to that because I also want to point out the language that was being used at this time. So there was a lot of conversation about rape on the timeline, and it was interesting because he doubled down, and then he started talking about how he feels. So this is Morara. He said he feels that the Sexual Offences Act needs to be reviewed because, according to him, there's underage kids who have sex with other underage kids, and then they're in jail because the kids are underage. The thing is, one thing, okay, one, we should all agree that kids cannot consent. Minors cannot consent. That is a fact. It's not an opinion. It's a fact, right? And one day we'll have a conversation about what is termed, quote unquote, teen pregnancies in this country, because it's actually not teen pregnancies, it's defilement. But then they use the word teen pregnancy to make it look cuter, to minimize the effects and the magnitude of the crimes that are committed. That will be a conversation for another. Minors can't consent. Two, he went ahead and said, there's a line that did not only jump out at me, it jumped out at a lot of women and a lot of feminists, because we've had this so many times before. And there's a part where he said, in other cases that I have seen, you find an underage girl behaving like an adult. Language is very, very important. One, the use of the word underage girl. That's a child. Okay? I've never had anyone say, oh, look, this is an overage girl. No, you say that's a woman. It's either a woman or a girl. Okay? And when it's a girl, it's a child. Then when you say an underage girl behaving like an adult, who decides that what behaving like an adult looks like? What is considered behaving like an adult? Wearing eyeliner, wearing earrings, wearing lipstick, wearing a short skirt. What exactly is considered behaving as an adult? Because I'd like to know. Because I wear short skirts, I wear makeup, I do whatever, and I'm sometimes people think I'm acting like a child. So what is considered behaving as an adult, and who decides what behaving as an adult is? Because I will tell you, it's not the quote unquote underage girl. Okay? It's definitely not. It's the man who wants to get away with defiling the child by saying, oh, but she behaved like an adult. Okay? It's funny how, when it comes to like all these other things, when it comes to other people's kids, to you can clock it, but when it comes to, oh, look at that girl, she's so pretty, and then you're like, oh, but she looks like she's 22. I I can tell you a child when I see a child. It doesn't matter what they wear. Just even a conversation with a child, and you can tell it's a child. Because even the way they think, it tells you. So that's just it's a lie. Let's just call it what it is. It's a lie. And then after he got called out on that, this man doubled down yet again. Okay. And then he came back and he said, Twitter is a dangerous place. Ati, you say something. No, there's some, what was the word? Oh, I said you smile the wrong way. And the only color, and their favorite color is red. And in this case, it's the red flag, or like you see red and you're just like, you go charging like a bull. But, sir, you're excusing defilement. Sometimes it's important to just take accountability and say, hey, I was wrong in this. My apologies. I will go educate myself on this topic before I have a conversation about it again so that I understand where I went wrong. And then someone else just came and said, why are you guys so quick to cancel someone when he airs? Like, y'all are perfect. Hamkoseangi, hamnanga wrong opinions. Damn. And I'm like, we cannot have, there's nothing like opinions when it comes to things like rape. I think I've said this before and I'll say it again. Rape is not a crime that someone can be rehabilitated from. So me, I've always been like, hey, hang them. Hang them. You find a rapist, hang them. Now that's an opinion. Okay? That's an opinion. When I say hang them, that's an opinion. But you can't come here and say that that rape is like is nuanced. There's no nuance to rape. Rape is rape. We live in a society where people act like you don't know someone who has been assaulted or raped before. And chances are most of the women in your life have been raped. Most of them, the ones who smile with you, who sit with you, they've been sexually assaulted by someone. Chances are it's someone you also know, and you've probably like even tetead them. But then when people talk about the problem, it's like, guys, one, that's such an ugly word. Can we use other words that then just reduce how big of a thing this thing is? So now that leads us into today's conversation. So we've sort of started, but we're having a whole conversation. When it comes to rape culture, I want to start there. What is rape culture? So rape culture, we mentioned it briefly in a previous episode, in a previous episode of the podcast, where we talked about like how there's so many things that are tolerated that lead up to the assault itself, that is rape, to the big crime, and all these things contribute towards rape culture. That's what rape culture is. Rape culture is basically everything that happens before the assault, and not necessarily like groping, whatever, where you think, I don't participate. There's so many things that are part of rape culture that people don't even recognize to be part of the bigger picture. It's like a bigger triangle. So there's the things that we've normalized. Then there's a part that gets to degradation. And then after that, there's the assault itself. And then in this case, the assault is the top of the pyramid. So what are some of the things that have been normalized but are part of rape culture? We have rape jokes, the way people make jokes about rape, sexist attitudes, stalking is part of rape culture, unwanted non-sexual touch. Let me tell you, if there's one thing that irks me, and it's always funny because when I nini or I ask, because I usually ask, it's when you're at the stage and a makanga starts holding your hand. And for me, I always ask, why are you touching me? Or don't touch me. And they get so pissed because, like, how dare I question why they are touching me? It's always so weird because I always go like, don't touch me, because I don't understand why you feel the need to touch me. Like, why are you touching me? And I always ask that question, and then it ends up becoming this whole thing. And I'm like, yeah, don't touch me. So that's part of rape culture, because why would someone feel entitled to touch you? And why would they get offended when you say, don't touch me? Because it means they feel entitled to you. Because when we talk about rape, rape is about power. Rape has never been about sex. Rape is about power. And in this case, when you're thinking even about rape culture, even in the smallest of forms, it's about power. It's about someone feeling entitled to you. And then when you say no, they're like, how dare you? Because they already feel entitled. Catcalling, unsolicited nude pictures, flashing or exposing yourself. If you'd remember, there was a story, I think it was earlier on this year, where an Uber driver, there were 2 women or 3 women in the car, and then he just pulls out his schlong and just starts touching himself while driving these women. That is part of rape culture. Someone just flashing or showing you, I just had a flashback. I've just had a memory that, yeah, that was hidden very far away. Where someone they flashed me in a matatu. It was a basi. Yeah, so that's part of rape culture. Groping. So this is like at the bottom of think of it as a pyramid. So at the bottom of the pyramid, this is where we have this stuff. And then now we start going up. So there's groping, where now it starts becoming where someone's actually touching you. Non-consensual photos or videos where someone's recording you, taking photos of you. Like you've seen, I think there was a story about someone who used to take photos of women as they walked up the bridge, Palengara, the one that's on the Thika Road side. And there was a man who would sit at the bottom up over and he would take photos. And I remember also there was a video of a man who would sit again, I don't know if it was the same man, would sit at that bridge and just like start jacking off to women passing. Like he would literally look under their skirts and just jack off. People can be nasty. People are nasty. Let's just call it what it is. People are very nasty. We have revenge porn. Safe word violations. So safe word violations basically is like we've agreed that like maybe we're doing something that is new and then we've picked a safe word and then one of you says the safe word and the other person ignores it and just keeps going. You're violating the safe word. Then we have coercion and manipulation, which is where it starts off as a no, and then you keep pestering this person until they tell you yes, but you know that it's a no. They had said no. They've said no multiple times, and then you keep pushing or you push them to a corner. We've had stories of where someone will have, like, say, a woman at their house and it's at 3 a.m. and maybe you've come from Dundan, you live like in the middle of nowhere, like me in Ushago. And then we're there, it's 3 a.m. and you're like, let's do it. And then they're like, no, I'm not in the mood. And then you're like, fine, get out. That's a form of coercion because you know they don't know where to go. So because they say no to you, you find a way to punish them because then now you know they won't be able to get out of that place. So they'll have to just eventually say yes to you. That's coercion. The other one is like when someone says no, we've had this one before, they say, kichwa too, like they'll just whatever, and then they still, that's coercion. Then there's threats, where someone actually threatens to do something more harmful to you if you don't allow them to continue. So we're getting up there now as we go. There's contraceptive sabotage. We've had this where either people will poke holes in condoms or you change out someone's like contraceptive. So be it the pills, whatever it is. Or there's other form which is called stealthing, which is where someone removes a condom while the other person is not aware. So that's what stealthing is. And then now, as we're getting up there, we have molestation, drugging, where someone actually drugs you, which is like in the case of um, what's her name, Miss Pellicot from France, the ongoing case, and then there's rape, which still something that happened to her. So basically, all these things that happen that lead up to the rape itself, all that is part of rape culture. And some of these things have really, really, really been normalized. And even sometimes when you pay attention to the language that people use, some of these things, it's like when you go like, that's not funny. And then someone goes like, you're too sensitive. No, it's because you are perpetuating a culture that's harmful. You're adding voice and weight to something that's already bad by just playing it off, right? So when someone makes like a rape joke, which now leads me to one of the conversations that I saw this past week where I was very, very disappointed by a lot of people. And then at one point, everyone was like, yeah, we're against defilement when the story about Bruce came out. And then the moment women started talking about certain things, and then men started making jokes about it, because let's be honest, most of the people who will make these jokes are men. They started making jokes about it. And I even yeah, there was a video. I didn't watch the whole thing because it was disgusting. Someone had shared it and they were talking about like ati akakubali or something, like as if he had any control over what happened. Then there's people who are talking about like, oh, if that was me, I would never have talked about it because what a shame. And then now the shame factor comes into play, because why should he be ashamed? He didn't do that. Someone hurt him, someone caused him that kind of trauma, and then you think that that's his shame to carry. That's not his shame to carry. The shame should be carried by the perpetrator of the crime, which is also funny because even in cases of rape, where it's young women, young girls, women in general, old women, some of the reasons that they don't talk about it is because one of the factors is like, oh, this is a shameful thing that happened to me. And then the conversation around it is like, that's their shame to carry. It's not. When I was assaulted, the first person I opened up to and I said, this is what happened. And I just told them, yeah, this man assaulted me. And it's so sad because it was a friend of mine and it was a woman. She asked me two questions. The first question she asked was, did he wear a condom? And I said, yeah, I think so. And to her, that was like, oh, then it can't be rape. I was like, but rape is not determined on whether someone's wearing a condom or not. I did not want to sleep with this man. I had zero interest in doing anything with him. I was not even remotely attracted to this person. I had never even looked at him and thought, never. But then immediately I was made to question myself by someone I trusted and I was opening up to. What I remember was her saying, then it can't be rape. And also I've had, again, we go back to language and the way people talk about it, where I even saw it this past week where someone goes like, Ati, they said something along the lines of someone they consider to be ugly is out here talking about rape culture, yet they wouldn't touch them or something like that. I'm like, rape is not about how beautiful one is. It's a power thing. It's someone exerting power over you. Rape has never been about sex. When you think about marital rape, it's the man believing he is owed something, so he's collecting it. And even the conversations this past week have been around that same thing, where someone will say, I saw a comment around someone saying, imagine getting married to someone and you can't have sex every time you want. I come home and then the first thing I want is like, that's what I want. It doesn't matter if she's into it or not. That's rape. The reason sex is consensual is both of you are into it, both of you want it, hence consensual, where I consent, you consent, we're like, oh, we're doing this. If only one party is like, I want this, and the other party is not interested, but the one party still goes ahead to do it, that's rape. Okay? In case you did not know, now you know, you're welcome. When people talk about rape, there's a difference in how women talk about rape and how men talk about rape. Women know rape is about power, it's about entitlement, and it's because as women, we already know that we have had to fight to have bodily autonomy. Let's be honest. Secondly, we have had so many instances of unwanted touch, a lot of unwanted things. And even when I said back to the example of Amakanga, like just holding you and you're like, don't touch me, and they get offended. So we know what it's like, right? And it's funny because I've seen someone tweet this before, or a conversation around this before, where someone said, men understand consent, especially heterosexual men, only understand consent when a queer person hits on them, like a man, or if a man touches them, who is like, they consider, if someone is gay and then they touch them, they're like, at that point, they're like, oh, but I didn't give you permission to touch me. But then when it's a woman saying it, you're like, nah, you should enjoy this. You enjoy this. You should love this because you should be grateful that I'm even interested in you. So there's a viewpoint, the way men view rape and the way women view rape, or rather our understanding. Most of the things, like we'll see something, and even the conversation that was happening the past week about what Morara said, it was quite fascinating because in the comment section, the people who are defending him were men. The people who are calling him out were women. The people pointing out the problematic aspects of the conversation he was having were women, because women have had to deal with these things a lot longer, and they have a full grasp of what it actually means when you're talking about defilement, when you're talking about rape, because we are the most vulnerable when it comes to that to begin with. So you understand what it means when someone makes a rape joke, because that's how it starts. And then you let it slide. And then, it's funny. And then the next time someone touches you, because they'll touch you today, and then they're like, oh, she didn't react. And then tomorrow, and then kidogo, they keep pushing that bar until they get away with stuff. So it's like, what more can I get away with? There's the rape culture versus masculinity, especially African masculinity. I was talking about the fact that there's people who are saying like they would never have disclosed that happened to them, like what happened to Bruce, that they would never disclose. This morning, I was attempting to listen to a podcast. I was doing research. I was attempting to listen to a podcast by, I think that, I don't know how young or old they are. They sounded pretty young. Kenyan men. I know, first mistake is listening to a podcast by men. But I was just like, I listen to a lot of different things because I'm like, oh, wow, thank God I don't do that, or all those things. And there's a weird topic they were discussing, and the thing about rape came up. The conversation about rape came up. And the thing that they said, it was like a question of, if someone raped you, would you disclose it? And I think all of them said no. Only one said maybe. It was more of a maybe, but then they're like, I was defiled as a child. And then they're like, I'm trying to be serious. And then someone made a joke about it. And then for some random reason, they just like glossed over it. So I was like, was he making a joke about being defiled? Was it genuinely defiled as a child? Was it a joke? Because it was I didn't know what was happening, because it was like people talking at the same time. And then everyone was throwing in what their thoughts were and what their opinions were in that instance. And they were laughing. And I was like, that's not funny. That was my first thought was like, that's not funny. Because I didn't understand why they were laughing. I didn't see the joke, because I was like, that's not funny. And now I'm like, if that guy was actually defiled as a child, and maybe it was an opportunity for him where he thought, oh, I could share this with my friends. And then they just shut that down very fast by making jokes and everything, it means like we don't offer rooms or opportunities for people to have these conversations that are very, very important to begin with. Because then, and it's even how the language also around it, because the way they were saying it, it's like, ati mimi nifunguliwe buti alafu nikuje kuambia, I could never. That's not funny. Because I'm like, where is the joke? Because I'm not seeing it. Is the joke in the room with us? And the answer is no. So we should be careful about how we have these conversations as well, especially as men, because when we say patriarchy affects men, it's also because of things like this. This is patriarchy at play. Because you're like, oh, I have to be macho. I can't be someone who, because you see, for them, they're also thinking, maybe they're thinking that being raped means something different, like you failed as a man or something. I don't know, given the way men view rape. So I think it would be very important for men to have these open and honest conversations. I'm not a man, so using humor. Humor is not meant for all spaces or all topics. There are certain things that they they really do not require humor. And this is one of those cases. This is one of those topics where you don't lighten the mood by like turning it into a joke. It's not funny. It's not a funny thing that we can be like, oh, that was hilarious. And then we just laugh and throw our heads back. And no, there's a space for humor. And this is not it. So if you find a conversation, if there's an ongoing conversation about things like defilement or rape, don't start making jokes about it. If you find yourself trying to make a joke, rape culture, you are perpetuating the same harmful stereotypes that lead to rape. You're not helping the situation, you're making it worse. Language that we use when we're talking about rape is very important. That's what I was saying when people talk about, like, when they were saying underage girl. No, that's a child. Okay. Underage boy. That's a child. It's a boy. It's a child. When we talk about non-consensual sex, no, that's rape. Consensual sex is sex. Non-consensual is rape. So just call them what they are. Why do we need to add multiple words? Yet we already have words that define these things. That's why all these things have names. But when people want to, and I said this before and I'll say it again, when people want to minimize, they want to minimize the crime, they want the words to be as close enough to the okay thing as opposed to being a completely different word, because it's like, oh no, rape is such a dirty word. Let's say non-consensual sex. It's the same damn thing. It's rape. That's what it is. So language we need to be careful with the way we speak. Even that thing when someone, like that guy is saying, what was it? Acting as an adult. What is that? Behaving like an adult. What is that? What does behaving like an adult look like? We need education. There's a need for education when it comes to matters rape. And I don't think it's even at, oh, we go sit in a classroom. Of course, it's like with the younger kids that can happen. I think there's a space for sex education and defining all these things, because then in knowing is when someone will know something happened to them or something didn't happen to them. A lot of people who were defiled, assaulted, groomed when they were young, they didn't realize until they became adults and learned what all that meant. So if they had learned when they were younger, it would have been easier for them to maybe seek help or speak up about something happening to them, because they would have been aware that it's wrong. Something wrong is happening. But because these conversations weren't happening, people are realizing these things as adults. You're a full-grown adult and you go like, what? I just realized that this uncle of mine groomed me, or I just realized that this and this happened to me, and I didn't know that that's what was happening. So I think there's a need for education, especially for the younger people, and I think parents should be the ones to have these conversations with them. Like pick them, have like talk to them, aunties, uncles, whatever. Have these conversations Talk to your girls, talk to the boys, tell them what all these things mean. And don't let your ninis, don't throw your random whatevers in there. If you are entrenched in the patriarchy and the issues of the patriarchy, don't involve that in the education part. Like they don't have to go, they don't have to go together, okay? But I think there's a need for that. So even as we're educating people, it's important to know who's doing the education and what are they saying. Then even us as adults, we still need to educate ourselves. We have to have a teachable mind where that you have to be like, oh, I did not know that. Or I did not know that these thoughts that I had were harmful to that extent. Be teachable. Have a teachable spirit, because when you're called out and a bunch of people are telling you, no, this is wrong, this is the wrong rhetoric to have, and then you just keep going like, oh my God, I now dream, my hands are trembling when I'm tweeting. That's just, come on. That's not the way to go about it. Just go like, oh, I had not thought of it that way, or I did not know that. I didn't think of that, but now that you pointed it out, I see what you mean. Or I think I need to go learn a bit more about this topic before I continue engaging in conversations about it, so that I see where I went wrong or what I said. Because then you can't just be like, a bunch of people are angry at me. Oh no. Why? There's a reason as to why they're angry at you. You can take a step back and go like, oh, these are the thoughts I've always had. And maybe they were informed by ABC, but I think it's important for me to take a step back and go have thoughts. And then I'll come back and be like, oh, I see what you meant. Okay? To finish this, I'll just say some things are not about opinions. They're either just, you either agree that they're wrong or you're pure evil. I said this before. Something like rape. Rape is not a matter of opinion. Doesn't require nuance. You see, something like unaliving someone can have nuance. If that person was coming to unalive you and then you unalive them at the whatever, you say, yeah, self-defense, nuance. But rape, there's no nuance in rape. Rape is rape, full stop. Thank you. That's the end of my long, whatever. That's the topic of the day. I hope you have learned something. If you have any thoughts, if you feel like I left out something, please add it in the comments. I would want us to continue having these conversations. I think they're very important. Point out something that you feel I may have missed out, or I didn't say, or I said wrongly. Because, yeah, sometimes when you're talking for too long, you use the wrong words, and you only notice when you're editing sometimes. So in case that happened, please leave that in the comment section. I look forward to seeing you back here on Friday with an episode of Options. I wasn't able to post last week because, like I said, I was unwell, but we do have an episode ready and that will be going up on Friday. Hopefully, we will be coming back soon with our guest episodes. We're still trying to get that into the works. We haven't fully got. We are moving at the pace that we're moving. And then once I don't want to overwhelm myself and then have nothing coming out. I would rather take my time and then just add things with time. Right now, doing this ones where it's just me, there's a lot less pressure versus coordinating with guests and doing that stuff. Like there's a lot more work that goes into having guests over. So please bear with me. But soon, our guests will be coming back. But for now, you get to see me at least twice a week. That was Just Doing Life a Little. And then we have Options episode drop every Friday. And then hopefully our Wednesday episodes will be back. Don't forget to follow us on social media at jdlthepodcast. That's on Instagram and TikTok. You can use that as a hashtag on Twitter if you want us to find your thoughts, opinions, and love for the pod. And then we are available on all platforms at Just Doing Life, the podcast. My name is Muthoni. Thank you so much for spending your time here, and I will see you on Friday.